I don't think it's a zero-sum game. I really, truly don't. I think it's kind of everyone can win. It's a positive-sum game. You know, if you find enough ways, everyone can win. Everyone can create value. You don't have to take it from someone else in order to create it here.
This is exactly the Frax philosophy.
That is what I like about Frax.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome to Flywheel, your number one source for everything Frax, DeFi, and all that's in between. If you want to know what's going on in the world on chain, well, you've come to the right place. This is DeFi Dave here with capital K, and we're here to help you harness the power of the flywheel. And in this episode, we have on the Empress of West Ham, as coined by Van Eck Intern, Her Royal Highness, Birb, Chairman Birb Bernanke, comes on the pod, and she shares us her story of how she got into crypto, secrets to BD, what it's like working at OtterSec, what they have going on at OtterSec, and generally what it's like being in the space. So this is a great one for, people that want to get into the, think about, how do I get into crypto? What's actually crypto really about? Beyond just the numbers and trading this and that. This episode is about the culture. And that's what I really about this. Yeah. And, Kit, I know you're not really one for culture episodes, but I can tell you're vibing with this one. You weren't falling asleep here. You're like, this is there's something about this.
No, I liked her. Like I said, it's she has a sense of confidence, but also comfort to her presence. So I really thoroughly enjoyed the vibes. It was immaculate.
This is one for the vibes. Yeah. And then she says vibes are the most important thing. It's, if you have a tree that falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound. You could have the best tech, but if there's no vibes there, are people going to really go to it? And that's the thing that she really gets across.
But also, bro, she knows her shit.
She knows her shit. Yeah.
That was critical for me too.
In a wider range.
Exactly.
Yeah. In a wide range of areas, from TradFi to auditing to degenning on chain to what's going on with mechanics and incentive design. She gets it. She does. And so, I think everyone here listening is going to enjoy and take a lot from her insights. So, but before we get into it, make sure you go down to our description below, go ahead and subscribe to flywheeldefi.com. You want to do that right now, you'll thank yourself later. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube, hit that bell button. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Give us a like. Make sure you follow us on all our socials at Flywheel DeFi on Twitter, TikTok, and Telegram. You can follow me on Twitter at DeFi Dave 22.
And you can follow me at 0xcapital_K.
And we're not going to forget about Farcaster at Flywheel on Farcaster, at DeFi Dave on Farcaster. We like decentralized social media. But anyway, yes. You know what we're about to say. Let's get the flywheel spinning.
Oh, it worked.
Do you hold ETH but don't know what to do with it? Want to earn those juicy liquid staking derivative yields but don't know where to start? Well, Frax ETH is there for you. Frax ETH is Frax's native LSD solution, allowing you to earn boosted yields in multiple ways on your ETH. If you want to get started, go to app.frax.finance and turn your ETH into Frax ETH today. All right, everybody, welcome back to Flywheel. I am your host, DeFi Dave, joined once again by Kit, my co-host. Thanks for waking up this time. And this time around, we are graced with the presence of royalty, the Empress of West Ham, and BD and growth at OtterSec. We have on Birb. We have on Bohm Condor. We have on Chairman Birb Bernanke setting the policy straight and forward. Birb, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
I'm really excited about this too. But before, this is going to be a good time. And before we were recording, we were talking about, is BD a real job? And it's funny. We had on Seraphim a few weeks ago. and he had like a very interesting take on it. And like BD is very essential, starting off with a protocol, and then eventually, if it gets big enough, you kind of just need maintenance. That's what kind of happened with Lido. My take on it is it's the most underrated and overrated job in crypto, because like if you have like one or two good BD guys, it can make or break a protocol. It can make the biggest difference. But if you have like a bloated team of 10 people, then you're just wasting money. So Birb, what is your take on BD and crypto?
I think, it's really interesting because I feel like, Dave, you and I have talked about this before, where
Oh yeah, we have.
On one hand, you have what everyone thinks of as the kind of fake job part, where it's going to parties and talking to people, and none of that sounds like work until you have to do it for work. And it very much so is different. It's not like a regular, I don't know, party where you just get to go and hang out with people. You're there for a different reason. And it's an interesting role because it exists kind of in the space that I don't know that much else in crypto does, of being the one whose job it is to just go out and talk to people and meet people and know what's going on. Like everybody else kind of has, I'm working on X specific thing. I sit here and I write code all day, or I get really deep into mechanism design. But BD is kind of the social temperature check of like, hey, what's
the social organ of crypto.
Yeah, the social organ of crypto, if you will, where if there was no community, if there was no non-technical people, this would be a very different scene. So we're needed, but at the same time, there's things that happen to me like, I have people put meetings on my calendar, and I really hope my boss isn't listening. People have put meetings on my calendar, not because they actually want to have a meeting, but because they trust me enough to be like, hey, I really need a nap in the middle of this day I'm going to pretend we're having a meeting. And having that kind of trust and knowing that like people actually trust you with that on their calendar, it's an interesting spot to be in. You're kind of the secret keeper and the knower of all of the things that happen, and you have to turn that into kind of partnerships. And how do I put this? You have to further it and take what you meet and take everyone you meet and turn this into this like great big thing. And that's how you end up with like crypto communities. So it's real, but it's also so fake.
Do you have any stories on the front lines of doing BD at OtterSec?
Oh, in what sense?
Actually, let's. Do you have just any general stories of being like part of being like a social organ, quote unquote, in crypto? Whether it's like making a connection that you didn't realize would turn into something in the future. Like for example, there's people that I've like met at conferences and later like we ended up working together.
So that's actually how West Ham started.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. I think this is the thing that everyone wants to hear about right now is what is West Ham?
What is West Ham? And is it vegan? We'll get to that last. We'll get to that last. But how did West Ham start? Yeah.
So West Ham actually started, it was just a group chat. It was just a group chat of people that had never been in another group chat in crypto, because there's all these little like fragmented, decentralized communities where if you have no idea like how to break into them, it's kind of hard. So West Ham just started as like, hey, I've never been in a group chat. I want to be in a, crypto DM, and it spiraled out of control from there.
Did Lauren start it, or did you start
Lauren started it? Lauren started it. It's actually really funny. It existed a couple of months before me, but Lauren's added me and bet me that I wouldn't last a day in there. And I said, I promise I'll be running it by the end of the day.
And now you're the Empress of West Ham. Wow.
Yeah, and now the Van Eck intern calls me the Empress of West Ham. So yeah, it's these things that like, my philosophy for this year is all of the things, you talk about as a joke, stop joking about them and just do them. Like, it would be so funny if we did X, Y, and Z. Well, it would be really funny if a group chat was investing, and now we have, so if we turned into a VC just because. And I think a lot of people don't realize how important the like social aspect and the networking is once you get in this group. And then you're like, I know someone who would be great in here. And then it turns into this just kind of, I don't want to call it a frat house, but kind of a frat house wearing a suit. And that's really what West Ham is a loose connection of people that turned like a group chat into a lot more.
Yeah, it's kind of like before, let's say like 30, 40, 50 years ago, you had everybody like go, people were like signing up for country clubs, or like you had these like, or like different, elite clubs, quote unquote, where you get to join and then you get access to these deals in like your local community or like wherever, blah, blah, blah. But now in crypto, it's not country clubs, it's group chats. It's all about the group chats. And if you're in the right group chats, like
the right group chat can change your life.
A good group, yeah, can change your life. And there's all kinds of group chats. Yeah, like Birb, we're in a few group chats.
We're in a couple of group chats together, and I'm happy we are.
Yeah, I know.
We never would have met, but you know.
Yeah, I know exactly.
There's all kinds out there, and I really think a big part of crypto is like finding your tribe.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many different things that you can do in crypto. There's consumer stuff, there's DeFi, there's infrastructure, there's trading. And I think that's my favorite thing about crypto is that there's something for everyone. It doesn't matter how weird or out there or anything you are, someone's doing it more.
Yeah.
And, you know, finding those people and getting together with them, I think you can make something really powerful out of. And that's what I think crypto's been phenomenal at. You know, there's all this community building and community management everyone talks about, and that is vital to, I think, the growth of the space.
You know why I'm in crypto? Like sometimes
why are you in crypto?
Why I'm in crypto, people are like, oh, like I'm in it for the tech. Oh, I'm in it for the money. You know why I'm in it, Birb and Kiet?
Why?
I'm in it for the people. I'm in it for the people. I just love meeting new people, making connections, learning about like cool shit, hearing what people are building and cooking and how I can help them. Like, that's why I'm here. That's what like gets me excited and like waking up every morning, whether it's like things are at an all-time high or like dumping 50% in a day. Like, and so that's, Kiet, why are you here? Kiet, what's on your mind?
Why am I here? That's a great question. I feel like for me, crypto kind of tickles two funny parts in my brain. One is like this super high finance, high tech nerd side of me, and then the second bit is the crypto culture that touches, you know, the anime, the fun in things. It really makes me feel like there's this magic happens at intersections, and I think this is the intersection for me. Because like Dave said, you know, at the beginning of the pod, we talked about sometime on our podcast, we go super duper technical and high finance. Like that's where like my place is to shine. And then sometime we go through the vibe zone only, and that's where Dave shines.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of the flow that we have here at the podcast.
Dave is impeccable at vibes.
Oh, thank you.
Immaculate.
You're welcome. Immaculate.
I try and I don't try.
You make it look easy, and I'm finding out doing event planning, doing hosting, like there's a lot of BD that's very, I don't know, amorphous. Like it could be whatever you want it to be, and the event planning and marketing and hype building and the vibes building part is
the vibes building
really fun but really hard. I think people underestimate how hard it is.
It's like being a DJ but with people. It's like you're kind of like setting
I'm gonna steal that.
Yeah, because like what DJs do is like, you know, they're trying to like get all these different like sounds and everything to like mold like all these different melodies and harmonies and whatnot together to make it all seem like one song and one mix. And that's what you're kind of doing when you're setting up a party or setting up an event. And you're having a West Ham event at ETH Denver. Can you go into that a bit? And like, are you doing anything else for ETH Denver? Like, what's your this is actually filming. We're going to release this like right when ETH Denver starts, like around that time. So like, what is your ETH Denver plans? And like, what are your like goals and expectations going to ETH Denver?
You know, it's funny you say that. What are my plans? And I bet, Dave, my calendar looks a lot like yours, where it's just full of things to the point where you're like, I don't know how I'm going to do all of this.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of things going at Denver. OtterSec is actually hosting a couple of events, so you should come out to all of those. We've got one is on, you know what? I'm going to pull up my calendar so I don't misquote this.
You're like, whoa, what's going on?
Wait a second.
So you don't hallucinate.
Yeah, so I don't want to say the wrong thing. But as far as the West Ham party goes, that is on Saturday. And what I'm looking forward to that is, I think it's the first time a lot of these people are going to be in the room together. That doesn't happen a lot, I think. Like, there's definitely been times where, you know, parts of the group chat have gotten together, or so-and-so gets together with X, Y, and Z. But this is kind of...
Your camera.
Yeah, my hat.
Your cat.
This is the kind of the first time I think we've taken a lot of people that we all know but haven't introduced to each other and just smushed them together, and we see what's going to happen, which I think is a really fun social experiment.
Yeah. What ETH Denver tips do you have?
Take it easy.
Take it easy.
Take it easy. And what I mean by that is like, there is always something you can be doing at Denver, right? Like it's kind of just a massive party. I think everyone goes to it. And you can really burn yourself out, especially like if you're a developer and you show up. I see this a lot with like my friends who are devs who come, and it's the first time they've ever gone to something. And by day 2, they are overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to go to this party. I got to go make it over to the event center. Go for a walk. Take a nap. It's okay. Like,
yeah.
Go touch grass or go
touch some
snow.
You have to touch some grass or snow or whatever it's going to be. Probably tornadoes in Denver. I have no idea. The weather makes no sense.
If there's a tornado, I'm blaming you.
It's my fault if there's a tornado. Yeah. But
Birb, I just had like a flashback to like when we first met in person.
Yeah, tell me about that.
I think I ended up at your Airbnb like really late at night, and I just like passed out on your couch, and then like you're FaceTiming Ansem. And he was at...
Ansem woke us both from the dead.
Yeah, I was like done.
That wasn't my Airbnb.
Oh, that wasn't? Oh, wait, that was DRT's.
I don't know whose Airbnb that was.
I don't know, but that was the first time I met you. I was like, oh, Birb, you're Birb. Yeah, and then like I remember we met Ansem, and he was at the place, actually New Conscious, where we threw our Frax event last year, and we're throwing it this year. And I like saw that. I was like, oh, we have to go. And I just like gathered everyone, and we went there.
I fondly remember that, actually, us sitting on the couch and both of us, I think, just like levitating up and be like, we can leave.
We can leave.
Z's here.
See, these are the magical moments at ETH Denver that happen where you make connections and, you don't know where they are going to be in the future. Like, hell, it could be your podcast guest.
You could be reminiscing about 3 a.m. in someone's Airbnb.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we were at ETH Denver. Do you have any more did you have other ETH Denver tips and advice?
There will be more parties. There will always be more things to do. Mm-hmm. But one of the things I think that helped me a lot is when you meet people and you message them and you're in the middle of a happy hour, whatever, take a selfie with them and send it to them. Because there are so many people that I see and I'm like, you know what, I got to be honest. I met 600 people this week. I don't know who you are, but if you take a picture with them, it kind of brings back like, oh, we were here, we were doing this. Like I talked to this guy about that. And don't feel weird taking notes about it. I know that sounds really like studious and like lame, but you will forget things. It's a lot. You will forget stuff. You will forget people. You will forget entire events. Writing down just little identifying notes for yourself has helped me a ton. Being like, I met this guy, we talked about this. He was wearing a cool hat. That's enough. You follow up on it later, but doing that kind of thing, you can look back at it afterwards and be like, wow, I did a lot. And then I think you feel more accomplished than just kind of flying by the seat of your pants and being like, oh no, I did so much and don't remember who I'm supposed to do anything with.
Yeah. So I think like the main thing here is, take things slower, take it easy. Like you don't have to rush to like every little event. You don't have to catch like every little, you're not going to do everything. You're better off doing like some or a few things really well and to gain the most out of those few events than trying to do like a bunch of events and just getting like the surface of each event. And when you go to them, and you're like you're going to meet a lot of people. You're going to get their names. I forget everyone's name. You can make like, I do the selfie thing all the time. I probably have hundreds, if not thousands of selfies on my phone with random people.
But it does help,
It does help. Yeah.
100%.
It does help. But yeah, I've been going off. Kit, you've been quiet over there. I want you. I know it's early for you. So do you have any questions? Maybe you want to get into Birb's TradFi background.
Yes, I would love to know that. Like, how does one what background do you need to become an Empress? How does one get a promotion there?
I will tell you. First, I'm going to plug because now I have all of my ETH Denver events that OtterSec is hosting. We have the Pizza Castle. That is with Pizza DAO. It is on Wednesday, February 28th. It is from 6 to 9 p.m. It's us, Nouns, Near, Pizza DAO. Everybody just come eat pizza. Take a break from the event. Then we've got a Founders Happy Hour on Thursday. That's at 5 p.m. And that's us, BitGo, Magna, another protocol mixer. That's Saturday from 5 to 8. And then the West Ham party is Saturday from 9 p.m., 10 p.m. until we get kicked out.
Nice.
Or Gary Gensler drops a ham ETF. Whichever happens first.
Goes ham.
If he goes ham, then Yeah. But to answer your question, my background is kind of the long way around. I started in crypto in 2012. And that I don't look old enough for that to be like true. But I was in high school and I started using Bitcoin and I thought this is the coolest thing in the world.
Why were you using Bitcoin?
For the same reason everyone was using Bitcoin, Dave. Regulatory arbitrage.
Oh, of course.
Of course. Were you not arbitraging regulatory differences in 2012? I was.
More like 2013 for me.
Close enough. So I was very online. I was very I grew up on 4chan. I thought it was really cool and different. And it was kind of in the wake of 2008 and all of the financial stuff just exploding in the US and realizing that maybe it's not always the perfect system. But then I went to college and I kind of pretended I was someone that went outside and didn't know what any of that Bitcoin stuff was. I went to Alabama and I was a student athlete.
Alabama?
Yeah, Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
That's a really fun thing to yell. If you've never just yelled Roll Tide, highly recommend it.
Roll Tide.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
even more fun if you're just in a crowd of people, especially a crowd of people that doesn't know what that is, and you just Roll Tide. Also,
I'm going to do that after this interview. I'm going to go outside. I'm meeting my friend from billiards. Actually, my friend from kindergarten moved to LA, and I'm meeting him for billiards after this. I'm just going to scream Roll Tide after I beat him in pool.
You absolutely should. Yeah. It's also really good when you're about to do a shot with someone. Just Roll Tide. It's got a lot of uses. There's a really funny old ESPN commercial that's anything you say in Alabama can be met with a Roll Tide. Doesn't matter what it is. Anyway, so I was a double majoring student athlete and I graduated with a degree in econ and a degree in philosophy.
Sick.
Yeah.
Wait, what sport did you play?
I was on the rowing team. I was a coxswain, so I was the little one that sits in boats and yells at people.
I minored in
front.
In the front, in some of the boats, and in the back in some of the boats, yeah.
I minored in philosophy.
That's why we get along, Dave.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. One of the many reasons.
Just the one.
Yeah, just the one.
That's it. That's the only
we
reason.
don't get along.
But it was 4 months before graduation, and I realized I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was all set to go get a PhD and kind of ghosted the program because I decided I was really tired of being poor. And I know that, that sounds bad, but I was the first one in my family to even go to college. I was tired of schoolwork and homework. So I kind of threw my resume into the world and just hoped someone would get me. And I ended up working for a brokerage. And my first job was I was just the person answering the phone. So if you called in, and you said, I need help with the 401k, that was me. So in the 3.5 years I was there, I took 12,000 phone calls, which is a lot of phone calls. The first time I was there, the last job I had was that I was actually the last person you talked to before you sued the brokerage. So,
wait, so people must have been so pissed coming.
Yes. Yes.
You must have gotten really good at handling people from this.
Yes.
Yes, but they also kind of teach you. They put you through classes. They're not going to let you, just come out of college and start talking to people. So they kind of teach you how to say yes without saying no, and no without saying, without saying no. So you learn how to talk, I guess. But it was a really, really fun job. I actually loved that job because by the time someone got to me, they'd already been through a first line person, a second line person, and their manager. So there was all sorts of very weird things I had to know, or brokers who would call me and be like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'd be like, I'm not sure what you're doing either. Or, if you, I don't know, called in and talked to a broker and you said you wanted to buy Snapchat and they bought you Apple, I was the one going in and researching that and then being like, actually, you guys talked about Apple for an hour. And
actually, you bought Apple.
Yeah, you bought Apple because that was the whole thing. You were on that phone call. I heard it because all of the phone calls were recorded. So it was very dynamic and really, really interesting. And, if there was an outage or something, I was the one fixing it. So I got to talk to a lot of market makers. I was very close with exchanges and learned a lot of rules. So I technically have 7 securities licenses.
Ooh.
Yeah. I have my 3, my 4, my 7, my 9, 10, 66, and 63. So I got a lot of licenses and no advice to give. But
I got a lot of licenses and no advice to give.
No advice.
The Empress of West Ham,
advice.
everyone.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, during that time, like that was like 2018 or so, Bitcoin kind of started doing its thing again. There was a whole other cycle and my grandma starts asking me about it. I'm like, all right, my grandma's hearing about it. This is probably the top. But I started kind of looking into it again and poking around. And then I left the brokerage job because the average tenure of someone on the team was something like 20 years. And I did it in, a year and a half. So there was nowhere to really go. So I moved to Chicago on a total whim and worked for a market maker just as like bottom of the totem pole. And I did that for like a year and decided I had seen enough behind the curtain. I didn't enjoy market making, wasn't really what I thought it would be. So I actually called the brokerage back and went back.
You weren't making markets, you were breaking markets.
I was breaking a lot of stuff.
Yeah, let's go into that though. What did you expect and what was it really?
Okay. So, when you hear like floor trader, you think like market making, you think like buy, sell, people all over the place.
Yeah.
It's not really like that anymore. Yeah, ARB, exactly. You'd be, but it doesn't really work like that anymore. It's a lot of people behind computers. They call it screens or, and it's a lot of the quants have programmed in stuff that says you should buy it when it does this and sell it when it does that. So it's kind of not as old school and on the floor. And that's all I really wanted. I didn't want to sit at a computer all day, which became a running theme in my life. So I didn't want to sit at the computer all day. But I went back to the brokerage in kind of a completely different capacity, started trading NFTs on the side, jumped to a startup, got into a lot of arguments with my boss at the startup because he was an old analyst for like an old hedge fund and he hated crypto. And I was trading NFT and thought, there's some really cool stuff going on here. Like, why don't you talk about it if you hate it so much? And he swore up and down it would never happen. Nothing's ever going to work with it. And I disagreed and, put my money where my mouth was. And then he, unfortunately, we had a whole startups explode, right? That just happens. So it exploded in a pretty ugly way. And I left. And that was when I jumped full time to crypto. I went to a Solana DeFi protocol. So I really jumped right into the deep end. I'd been trading on Ethereum.
You went to HXRO, right?
Hero Network.
Hero.
Yeah,
That's
Hero.
it.
Yeah.
That's how, it's pronounced Hero. Okay.
It's pronounced Hero. We got that one a lot. But that was, I did that for like a year. There were two parts to it. There was like a really fun retail side, and then there was a really heavy infrastructure, like liquidity primitive underneath kind of thing like that. So I did a lot of that. And then I actually quit that because I wanted to move to New York. And had kind of a tough time getting to New York, had a job kind of fall through. I got a little rugged and came out of it.
Happens.
It does. You trust people and maybe you should get some more things in writing than you get. And it's ugly, but it ended up for the best. And I ended up working. I decided, and this is kind of something I tell people when they really ask about this, is that there's kind of a natural tension that exists between like sales and engineering, and product, which is what I was doing, kind of sits in the middle of that and takes all of the responsibility and says no to everything and tries and fixes all the problems. And I kind of decided that instead of fixing the problems, I wanted to cause the problems.
I see a trend in your career.
Yeah, I'm seeing a trend here.
It's like that meme. I'm going to cause problems on purpose.
I woke up and decided I wanted to choose some violence. And, BD is all about finding like the win-win. It's not about saying no. It's not about managing the shareholder expectations. It's not about talking to people. Well, it is about talking to people. That's the part I like. But it's a lot more of how can I say yes and how can we all win? And I think that's my favorite part of crypto too, is that I don't think it's a zero-sum game. I really, truly don't. I think it's kind of everyone can win. If you look, it's a positive sum game. If you find enough ways, everyone can win. Everyone can create value. You don't have to take it from someone else in order to create it here.
This is exactly the Frax philosophy.
That is what I like about Frax.
Yeah. Sam has been beating that drum. The whole team has been beating that drum since the beginning of Frax, like positive sum. We can all win together. We can all grow together.
And that's one of the things I really like about Frax too, is that there's so much to it. And it all kind of works together.
It does. Like, what do you think of Frax and what do you know about Frax?
I think a lot of things about Frax, but I like it.
I think a lot of things.
I think it's ambitious. I think we don't have enough people that think big in the space, right? Like we've got people that kind of do their, I'm going to restake this and I'm going to get yield and that's it. But you guys are kind of a lot more like, we have this thing, but how do we make it more things? And how do we get everybody in? And how does it even get bigger from there? And I really like the growth and the mindset of it of, yeah, parts of it are super technical and we don't have to talk about that. I could talk about the mechanism design, but I don't really want to. A lot of it is just how can we win together? And that's kind of what I look for in a lot of the protocols that I like and talk to a lot.
Yeah, it's funny, like going to Frax now, there's like a whole RWA stablecoin. There's a whole
so
L2
much.
LSD. Now there's an L2 chain, like incentive design at the chain level, not just at the application level. It's like, it's crazy.
Yeah, but you know, like going back to like the BD conversation a bit, is that kind of makes our job a little bit easier, right? Like we have so many different products that we can effectively sell depending on what audience we engage in, right? So I think it actually helps us a little bit. And like, you know, what Birb said earlier was everything connects. It's not that everything is like disparate. It's not like we had an NFT marketplace, but hey, by the way, we have a perps protocol that only trades, you know, synthetic.
6 different perps.
So, exactly.
You know, I think like one of the most, if not the most impressive thing about Frax is how many like groundbreaking primitives and designs they've created, whether it's the AMOs, whether it's like the design of Frax ETH, which is like 2 tokens. And I've seen multiple like other LSTs on other chains. I just saw Infrared on Bear Chain has a 2 token design as well. First one to come out with FXBs, like the, you know, Frax Bonds yield curve on chain, and then like fractal points and the whole Flox mechanism. Have you heard about this, Birb?
I haven't heard about this. Tell me more about the points.
Okay, so
Love the points.
love the points. I love points too. You know, we used to be farmers. Now we're off the farm and we're all athletes. So, put me in, coach.
Put me in, coach. I'm ready to get some points.
Yeah. So how the Flox mechanism works is, I'll give some context. So, you know, before with like points, people and teams kind of give them out arbitrarily, or they give out like airdrops and tokens arbitrarily, whether it's like Arbitrum with the STIP incentives or like every L2 with their point system, like, hey, come here, we'll give you points for this or that. And there's no like rhyme or reason. It's just like, it's very simple. What Frax realizes like, hey, how can we like how can we scale up incentivizing, you know, positive contributions and actions to the Fraxtal L2? And so how Flox works is like, hey, what if we take like Google PageRank and like put it towards smart contracts in an L2? So they have something called Flox Rank, and it rewards the highest used smart contracts and, you know, most engaged users with points based on an algorithm that has 3 different variables in it. One is like, what are the most popular used smart contracts? 2 is the FXS boost, your VEFXS boost. And then 3 is how much of like a Frax liability you have, a Frax stablecoin you have. You can have like a bunch holding Frax or Frax ETH, and it takes all this together in aggregate to give you points. And it does this like week by week. And we'll do that for the next year. And then they say in 12 months from now in the docs, it will turn into something liquid, whether that's like FXS or like a separate token. It's TBD. But yeah, TLDR, Google PageRank, but for smart contracts.
I like that.
Yeah.
An L2
like that you're
that loves you
some
back.
An L2 that loves you back.
If you're not using that as a tagline, you really should be.
Oh,
Oh my!
I didn't know I could do that.
I didn't know you could do that.
I didn't know I could do. I didn't know either. Yeah.
Does it work like, you know, the Google Meets? You can do like thumbs up sometimes, and it's just thumbs upping everywhere.
Yeah.
What else we got? So we got the heart. No, the heart didn't work for me.
I think I have balloons.
Oh, I'm doing it again.
No. It's just Dave.
It's just Dave, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Flox Rank. That's where I was at. Yeah. It's interesting how they can. Oh, the thing I was going to say is the second order effect of this is if I'm a protocol looking to deploy somewhere, and I want to find where like the most active users are, I could either like, you know, create like some system that's going to get sybiled and stuff. Like you see all this shit happening on GitHub now. Like people are just spamming.
I have thoughts about that.
Correcting typos.
Yeah, correcting typos. But like now I can just look at like the Flocks rank system. I can see like, oh, like these are like the most engaged users. I'm going to airdrop not only to like VE FXS stakers, I'm going to airdrop to people who have points. So it's like quite an ingenious system. So pretty excited for that to come out.
I like that. I like that a lot more than the current kind of meta around how we do airdrops and points and rewards.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts on the recent... I just saw like a thread of like how to spam GitHubs to civil... and then I saw Lawrence like, if you do this, every ETH developer has the right to go to your house and just beat you up. And shoot.
No, as a non-technical person, I think show me incentives, I'll show you the outcome, right? Like if that's what you want to do incentivize was just pure developer activity, which I actually think was a really poor idea in the very specific first case of this, that's what you're going to get, right? Like it's just sibling, but on GitHub. And all you've done is limit that to anyone who can use GitHub. Congratulations. But like, if all you're doing is approving and giving money and airdrops and rewarding the people who have done things on GitHub, that kind of leaves out like a whole bunch of people. So, you know, if you wanted to reward people, I kind of feel like you can't necessarily gatekeep it like that. And I think it's a lot better to do things like what you're talking about with, you know, you're rewarding the most engaged users, whatever that looks like, rather than just GitHub contributions or tweets or things like that.
Yeah, rewarding actions and things that happen on chain.
Rewarding users rather than numbers or wallets, I think is smarter.
Yeah. What do you think protocols and L2s and change should look for and try to do when doing airdrops and point systems? Like what types of activity do you want to reward and incentivize? I
think whatever usage looks like. You know, if you're a protocol, real usage, not just, oh, you know, I contributed to your GitHub. And if you're going to try and narrow that down beyond like, I don't know, active wallets or something, like you have to be very careful with it because you're going to do something that's going to piss people off some way, shape or form. And not everyone's always going to be happy, but I honestly think the wider and broader you go with the airdrops, like they're expensive for you to do. You might as well get the best ROI out of them. And the best ROI is acquiring as many users as you can. Not, we want just this specific type of users, others aren't welcome. So I think going narrow and going niche is actually the wrong move.
Yeah, you want a wide base. You want to feel like the wider
like everyone can come.
Yeah, everybody can win. Positive sum. Like look at the Uniswap airdrop. I know when
I got the ENS.
Look at ENS.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, like speaking of like, you know, wide range participation, this popped in my head. ICOs, the ICO era. Back in the day, you know, anybody could like go in and, you know, be a part of a raise and be like, oh, I believe in this and like put their money in, blah, blah, blah. Do you think the ICOs did something right? And like, do you think like if it was regulatory kosher, like it would be a good thing if ICOs or something similar came back?
I think if we were in a different regulatory environment, I'd be a little more for them, but I think they're not necessarily far enough removed from realistically kind of the way some of the existing regulatory like space works.
Right. She has 7 securities licenses.
She has 7.
You can do a little better than like, what if we just did an ICO? Like, come on. You know, I think
a token generation event.
A fair launch token generation. Okay. You know, there's also...
What do you think of the Jupiter launch?
I'm personally a little salty I didn't get more. But I think that's probably how most people feel. Wish I'd gotten more. I actually don't think they did anything wrong. I think
they told everybody what they were going to do.
They broadcasted it. Like it could not have been louder. They were like, we're testing stuff. We did mock jupe. We did we're playing with things, which I think is attitude and ethos in the space that we're losing, right? It gets more financialized. It gets more corporate. Everyone starts talking to VCs and wearing suits and everyone kind of stops playing. And I really think what they were doing was, and I know this isn't necessarily like a popular opinion, they were playing. And if you chose to look at that and be like, well, I'm going to speculate off that, then, I mean, maybe it was a good trade for you and maybe it wasn't, but that's how all trades go. So I'm not really mad at it. I think it definitely got a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah.
Which I think is the goal of any real airdrop, right? Is getting your name out there, and they sure got their name out there.
Yeah, like airdrop is just another vehicle for marketing. So
it is. It really is.
Yeah, if you consider like all the second order effects of that, like the airdrop like was out of the park.
Easy. Yeah. You know, everybody wants money.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that is exactly the perverse mindset that we have in crypto, is because just because there is an airdrop, we expect it to be minimum 4 figures, or
which is ridiculous.
Right? It's such a ridiculous. So, you know, I don't know how much you guys pay attention to kind of like the crypto gaming side, but there's this meta of like play to airdrop, right? You literally, as it sounds, you play the games in hopes of you getting an airdrop. And, you know, I was playing this Web 2 game, and I was streaming it and talking about it. And somebody asked me, I was like, what's the advantage for playing this game? You know, I'm like, dude, I'm not playing for advantage.
I just want to have fun.
Playing for fun.
Having fun with my friends online.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't play to airdrop. I play to have fun, you know? And it's just, so coming from that mindset though, like, how do you think, do we fix that, or do we just keep giving people more 4-figure airdrops?
Well, more free money. More
give
free
me money.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I think you're right. We've trained everyone to kind of be like, what do you mean you're only giving me $200? Like, that's, can you imagine trying to explain to your parents, I'm mad at someone because they didn't give me enough free money? Like, if you start explaining this to normal people, everyday people who are not involved in crypto at all, they're like, what are you talking about? You know, people do things for fun. People do things because they like them. And if the only reason people are using you is because they think they're going to get an airdrop out of it, maybe you don't have a good enough product.
Yeah,
right, exactly, and that perverts your PMF like metrics. Like, do you know you solved the problem, or are you like,
or are people just
how do you improve?
Hoping?
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly. And the people are happy with a free burrito from Chipotle, right? Like,
that's $7.
Exactly. Well, let's spring.
I mean, it's
guac,
more like
14
here,
9,
but
you know?
yeah.
Exactly. I gotta say, inflation really shows at Chipotle more than any other restaurant.
Yeah, and they get really, really stingy with the scoops.
Yeah, I know.
So stingy.
There's a Twitter account I used to love. It was called like Miserly Scoops, and there was this guy that he only got like rice and chicken from Chipotle because he was on some sort of like diet, and he would take out all of the like meat and weigh it, and then take out all the rice and weigh it. And he was like, these are always so off. They're like 50% over on rice and 40% under on meat. You're giving everyone diabetes. And it was just Twitter. It was the greatest Twitter account.
What happened to it?
He just logged off one day, and I haven't seen him since.
He logged off and won forever.
He logged off and won forever, I guess.
Getting his scoops.
He's probably out there somewhere getting adequate scoops of meat, I hope.
Just the right amount of meat. So back to your BD side, I feel like we just cut off before you joined OtterSec.
Yes.
So let's get on to You're actually the second person from OtterSec to join the pod. The first was Cuffy, like a year and a half ago. He was an early guest.
Wow. We love
Cuffy.
We love Cuffy. Cuffy is actually the one that got me, not in it. He didn't like hire me. He helped me along the process of getting hired in OtterSec, because I don't really like talking about the period before I was at OtterSec too much, but I wasn't doing real well, and I was very much going through this, like, what do I do? Who am I? Like, I was also turning 30. Like, it was a whole existential mess of, like, what do I want to do and who am I? And OtterSec came along and was like, look, we sell auditing, right? We're security. And they do a lot of, like, very niche, very different, like, not just, oh, we read your code, congratulations, it's, safe.
Stamp.
A+. Never talk to us again. That's not how they work, right? Like, they actually started as a bunch of guys that do, like, online, like, capture the flag competitions together. They were just white hat hackers who decided that, like, they were doing really well at that, and maybe they should make a company out of it. And I was really going through this, like, crisis of faith, like I said, and I was like, I don't know what I believe in. I don't know who is right anymore, but I know one thing, and that is, if we want crypto to work, like, you can't just have grandma's money stolen by a 13-year-old in a basement with an internet connection and an Amazon Fire Stick. Like, that can't happen. So maybe I'll go there and try and, like, figure it out while I, figure it out. But I actually ended up really loving it.
Really?
I get to, yeah, it's so much cooler than I thought. It's a very different side of things. I'm not, like I said, I'm not super technical. If you make me do more than SQL, like I generally start crying. But learning and meeting all the people and being like, here's what we found to make your code safer has been really, really cool. And there's all these things and all these guys and girls, and it's not just guys, who are really, really passionate in this community about making sure that like code is safe and it actually works and it really does what it says it will and it won't do stuff it says it won't do. And I think that's like vital in the space right now, because there's a lot of times where transactions don't do what you think they're going to do, or, you know, people get hacked because, I don't know, some really dumb bug happened. And being there to be like, hey, maybe we can make this safer and we all win here, really kind of brought back a lot of my faith in crypto. So,
security. Wow, I love this arc.
It's been a redemption arc.
I love to hear it, because I remember we like met up and talked like right before you joined OtterSec. Mm-hmm. You were like wondering like, what should I do, this and that, and I'm just like, you know, just go with the flow, like.
And you were right.
Do your thing. Yeah, just like totally things work out. Yeah. So what are like some things you learned about the audit industry and like just how security is done in crypto from OtterSec? So
I've learned a lot of things, and I think the biggest takeaway so far for me has been like, everyone hears the advice and everyone's like, oh, what tips do you have on security? And I'm like, you know what? Are you doing the basics? Like, do you have 2FA on? Are you using a Google Authenticator? How many people act, you know?
Wow, real basics. Okay.
Real basics, because everyone knows this advice. Everyone hears all of this stuff and then no one follows it.
No.
You know, oh, I clicked a link and signed a transaction without looking. Well, why did you do that? You know?
I know why. I know why. Because they didn't realize that 2FA had an airdrop. You know?
Right. They didn't realize if they just got SIM swapped, everything would be great. No, I mean, really, there's such basic stuff we see every day, like Gary Gensler's Twitter, you know, just things like that where like people aren't doing the basics, and those go a long way, because any like friction you introduce into the like stopping people from getting in, they give up along the way. And the more protected you are, the better.
What's the quote? It's like a drop of prevention is like an ounce of
cure or something like, yeah, no, 100%. Yeah.
Some shit like that. Just like a little bit, like if you do like a little bit to prevent, it goes a long way.
Just a little bit. And I mean, there's a lot that goes on in auditing that like, I don't necessarily agree with. I really like the model that people like Coderina and like ImmuneFi are doing, where there's bounties, and, you know, the more people you get looking at it, the more sets of eyes on something, the more likely you are to find something. Mm-hmm. And I think those are awesome, and they win, and they give people who wouldn't necessarily have like an opportunity in the space to actually contribute and help. What I don't like is there's kind of a lot of firms that, you know, it's, hey, give us money, we look at code. Okay, done, goodbye. And then they never speak again, and there's no ongoing relationship. And if you get hacked, like nothing happens to them. There's no skin in the game for them. It doesn't matter. So that's something I think we're trying to work on fixing. We've got a lot of ideas in the works. Yeah.
But could you like put up like a bond and be like, hey, this is like.
Or you could maybe have someone, I don't know, underwrite insurance or sell put protection. And there's all sorts of things you can do with repricing risk. I think we just have to get a little more creative as an industry.
Ooh, maybe use eigenlayer restaked. That's like my like use case of eigenlayer. That's my prediction for eigenlayer in the future, that it's going to be restaked for insurance purposes, because it makes sense.
That's interesting. That does make sense.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kent.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a bit more about auditing, because, you know, I'm always so curious about that side of the business. And I just want to kick this off with this meme that we all know and, you know, all love to this firm, but it's basically the Pepe frog. Like, just like see this new protocol, loves it, sees that who's this audited by, and then it starts sweating. Yeah. You know, like I'm just going to leave the meme there, like all love. But like there's some truth to that, right? Like, you know, you said earlier about how once you kind of correct the code, you're like, all right, see ya, man. Best of luck out there. When a developer is trying to choose an auditor to work with, what would you recommend and give advice to them on?
It's not all about cost. I know that sounds bad. I know that like there's a lot you can say there, but on one hand, I do really understand the plight of like the small team who doesn't have the money for a full gigantic, total assessment. And I do think there's some things we're also working on with that at the chain level, because I think that's going to really help. But like that stifles innovation, right? Like if you can't afford to get something audited, then that sucks. But if you can, and you kind of try and, say, I don't know that security is where you should be trying to save the most money and nickel and diming, right? Like you're going to get what you pay for. And boy, is that, a couple $1,000s going to look really, really cheap if you do get hacked, for a lot more than that, probably. So
could you tell us the range though? Is it like, hey, 5K quick audit, or there's like a 50K package? Like how wide is this range?
It's really difficult, right? Like everyone wants to ask this. Their first question is always like, what does it cost? And I'm like, well, it depends, which is such a like unfair answer. But like,
it's like, what do you mean it depends?
Well, so we don't look at like lines of code. We're not like, this is 100 lines of code. This will be $100. Like we look at the complexity of something. We look at how long is it going to take us to, implement a patch? Like, what if there's something that needs to get fixed? Like, how do we work together on this? And that's the other piece of advice I would give is go with the people that you like the most. Like a relationship is really the most important part of this, because these are the people that are going to be like testing your stuff and making sure it works and helping you fix it. And if you don't like them, then like there's probably someone better out there for you.
Do you have any war stories or like from auditing and stuff? Like let's get into the war stories on the ground.
Audit's gone bad.
Audit's gone bad. I think we're just mostly like,
we don't get hacked.
No, I mean, like every once in a while, right? Like we find a bug in something we missed before. And I think that's embarrassing. But at the same time, like as code bases and as kind of languages get more complex, there's not less attack vectors, right? There's more. So I don't necessarily know that, and this probably doesn't sound like a really big like badge of confidence for anyone using OtterSec, but it is. We know that there's always going to be new things out there, like new ways of hacking things, and then once something gets hacked, you find like 50 copycats like immediately because everybody made the same mistake. So with unlimited time and unlimited resources, like if North Korea decides that your protocol is it, there's probably nothing you can do, right? Like it's going to happen. But finding the right people, working with them, getting as many eyes on your code as you possibly can. That's how you kind of keep this from ending up in war story land.
Yeah. If only we had on FTR again from Green Lake, Drosera.
Yeah.
Oh, Birb, you would love this guy. So like, let's say, we had this guy on. He's not just a guy. He's the man. His name's FTR. Man. He's the man. He is like intelligence, NSA, army dude, and he's basically if your protocol gets hacked, like you have him on retainer, and he will find who did it within like 2 days and get law enforcement there. So it's like kind of like this is like the other part of security. It's like you have one part of security which is preventative, like with audits and cleaning up the code and everything like that. But then there's like this other part of security of like, okay, like these things are going to happen. What are you going to do after? So you can just hire like Green Lake, shout out FDR Green Lake, have them on retainer, and they'll figure out like, okay, like how did this happen? Like let's figure in where could we trace it to? And he had some crazy stories, Kit. Remember the interview?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, sorry. No, you finish. I've cut you off like 10 times.
No, I'm just interviewing. I'm
vibing. We're vibing.
We're vibing. So he had that one story where he, like these Russians hacked a protocol and they like counter hacked the Russians, and they got in the video cameras of like some like state sponsored Russian hackers and stuff. It was crazy.
I do have a really fun little story actually. There was a hack. This is not from OtterSec. This was from before OtterSec, but I knew the guys that did this. There was a protocol called something like MISO or something like that got hacked, and it was for a couple $1 million. And instead of like going to the police, because at that time, like they're helpful, but they're only so helpful. And a lot of them don't, like law enforcement doesn't entirely know what to do with some of this. They found the hacker's address and sent him through DoorDash like 1,000 things of miso soup. And just to be like, we know who you are, like we got you, give the money back, and they got the money back kind of
so funny.
Same day.
That's so cool.
So yeah, that one I love that one.
It's about sending a message.
It's about sending a message. But for everyone that can't send a message, I want to take a second and plug something. There's what's called on Ethereum Seal 911. I don't know if you guys have heard of this. It's a collection of security researchers and folks. It's a Telegram group that is always talking about security, always kind of on high alert. So if something gets hacked and you get hacked, you go contact that group. That's all they do all day. So they've got war rooms, they've got everything you could need. They know who to talk to, they know where to go. And those like first, 12 hours after a hack happens are really important. And you want people who have done this before. You don't want to just be going, oh my God, who am I supposed to find? Who do I talk to? What do we do? You want these guys. And they're doing something really cool too called the Safe Harbor Agreement. And what this does is it's a collection of white hats who agree that like, if you see a hack in progress, you can front run it. And here's where you can send the money. And we've all agreed up front that this is okay and this is cool. And you've agreed up front that that's what you're going to do. So you don't look like a black hat trying to steal from another guy. Like,
so it's because every second counts. And so
every second counts.
So you may see like an opportunity to recover the funds, but you don't want to look like a black hat or it's just like these things require.
Legal things get really complicated.
Oh, legally.
Yeah.
And
so there's, like recovery addresses set up and like protocols in place where like if you see a hack happen and you can stop it, do stop it. Here's where you can send the money back and we'll give you some of it as a reward as a way to kind of protect those like white hats. So that I think is a really great thing that they're doing, which is part of Seal 911.
What are your thoughts on, you see a lot of security researchers and maybe like smaller audit firms, even like larger audit firms that try to tweet for clout and like live hacks are in progress and they'll tweet like, hey, it looks like there's a problem here. Like
you might want to check this out.
Yeah. And like, it's usually like tweet something and like sometimes it's still in progress and it's like makes it more vulnerable. I believe that happened with like the Curve, the Viper exploit, and it happens like a good amount of the time. Like, how can we like get audit firms to stop tweeting for clout?
Stop rewarding them for tweeting for clout.
Yeah,
stop giving them the engagement.
I guess that's something wrong with Twitter because like Twitter like feeds off that stuff.
Twitter feeds off that stuff. If you start quote tweeting it, you start dunking on it, you start, tagging protocols, you start commenting and liking, that just encourages these firms to keep doing that. If you take away their engagement, they respond to engagement just like the rest of us, right? Like if they see something's not working, they stop doing it. Stop rewarding those things. I think as a space, we all have to come together and be like, this is probably not the right way to handle this, rather than try and get an individual to like change a behavior that is rewarding them right now. Like that's also a perverse incentive.
I don't think we can ever stop that. That's like almost our on-chain version of like TMZ, right? It's like a scandal that just kind of happens, and we're like, oh my God, let's all tune in.
Yeah.
We all love a good scandal. We all love a little drama. We all love a little action. That's why we're here. But if we want something to no longer be done for clout, then we have to stop giving it clout when it is done.
I want to shift gears a bit from auditing to the Bitcoin ETF because you talked about that with a friend, Deanna.
Yeah.
Diana. Why do I keep on saying Deanna? Diana. Diana Ingtao. Shout out Diana, a friend of the show. But Bitcoin ETF. It's been out for a month. When you filmed with Diana, it was like it just came out. So what are your thoughts on the Bitcoin ETF performance, how it's been received, how it's been performing, its inflows, its reception? Bitcoin ETF, go.
It's actually gotten more inflows than I thought it would. I really thought this was like a sell the news kind of event because once it happened, like, okay, great. Like I didn't think retail was going to come flooding in, and I still don't think they've come flooding in, but they're having a lot more success than I thought they would. It's actually been a lot of inflows coming in, more than I expected. I think I just saw something that was like 2.5 billion went into all of them in the past week, which is a lot. And I mean, I think that's good for all our bags, good for adoption of the space, but at the same time, like,
let's go.
Is an ETF really what, Is an ETF adoption or is it institution eating us? I'm not really sure.
That's a good question.
And they distract us with number go up.
Right. They figured out the number go up game, right? But like the whole point, I think, originally of crypto was to be something outside of the existing financial rails, outside of the existing kind of
and now this
financial
is like
controls.
Being captured by the financial
So I don't really
system.
know who won here. The narrative is still kind of evolving. I'm sure I'll look back at this podcast in a year and be like, damn, I shouldn't have said that. But I don't really know. I'm mixed on it, honestly.
Well, we can ask ourselves, if gold never had an ETF, would gold get as big as it is today? Like you need,
I think,
if you want, yeah.
I don't know about that. I don't know. There's a lot of people that don't necessarily understand what gold does as a fight. Like there's a huge difference between buying actual bars of gold and buying like a gold ETF or a gold futures contract. Like if you're actually looking to physically deliver in gold, those are not the ways you would do it. So I don't know. I don't know if they're actually useful in that sense.
Oh, what's actually the gold ETF?
Yeah. Like if you think about it, if you buy an ETF, you're buying something that, you know, is a basket of goods. In order for you to actually get the gold, you'd need to go like physically redeem that basket for your gold. And they're not doing that via ETFs. They do like creation and redemptions, but they don't do them where you just like, here's your gold. Same thing with like futures contracts. If you can physically deliver gold, you have to go to one of like 7 places in the United States and like show them your receipt and they're like, here's your gold. But people buy gold because they think it's like going to help them if there's some sort of like apocalyptic future. But if that happens, you know, if that comes to pass and we don't have internet or electricity and all the markets are gone, those are not the instruments you would have wanted to use to get your gold. So I don't really know.
Yeah, you just would want your gold.
You'd want
your
gold.
Bed or something. You just want gold. You don't want like a paper that says, I'm owed this gold.
Right. Yeah, okay. You know, can I eat this paper? That's not really going to help me in a crisis. And I'm not even sure you really want gold in a super emergency like that. Like if we have a nuclear fallout war, you want gasoline, you want water, and you want guns and bullets. You don't want gold. So I'm not sure.
Are you prepping, Birb? Are you prepping?
You know, my prepper group, shout out to those guys. They've taught me a lot about what you should have in your garage. And it's a lot of water and gasoline. Yeah.
That's true. But any other thoughts about the Bitcoin ETF? I mean, yeah, granted, if if there's nuclear war, I'll go buy ETF. But you know, let's say the world keeps going as it is. Like, where do you see
in that case? I think it's good. You know, I think it's good from the aspect of like grandma doesn't have to figure out how to get on chain and buy a Bitcoin. She can just invest in a retirement account and they'll buy it. So I think from the angle of like getting more people awareness and buying stuff and using it, it's great. I think the price is probably going to track whatever Bitcoin does. So maybe number go up.
Perhaps. Where do you see where do you see Bitcoin and ETH a year from now? I know, like last podcast, you were like, BTC all-time high, Sol all-time high, ETH no all-time high in 2024. Do you still believe that?
I'm standing by that. Yeah.
You're standing by that?
I'm standing by that. I think Bitcoin hits some new highs. I don't think ETH does this year. I think maybe next year. I think someone has to win the L2 kind of meta first, and then they'll all go there. And I do think actually the one thing that maybe changes my opinion of some of this is whatever WorldCoin does, because it is, you know, on ETH, it does use Ethereum stuff. So if all of the money starts flowing into WorldCoin as kind of a proxy bet on Sam Altman and Sora, maybe we'll see something different. I think so.
This is the new
Here's
debate on Twitter.
That's my schizo trade of the week. Yeah.
Oh, this is that. Oh, like WorldCoin equals ETH number go up.
Yes.
That's pretty okay.
Identity play.
Go ahead, to get your thoughts, Birb, on like the ETH ETF, and since your concern like was, you know, Bitcoin really Satoshi's real vision of the thing he had created.
Satoshi's vision.
I feel like for like ETH, it's even more imperative because obviously we're, you know, proof of stake, and obviously BlackRock is going to vacuum all the steaks. There will be the steakhouse. in that situation, like welcome to Black Rock Steakhouse where we eat your lunch. Like, what happens then? Like I think like that is scarier because Bitcoin is proof of work. So it's like, yeah, go ahead, collect all my bags and pump it.
You're right. That is scarier.
I love your thoughts.
I think in that case, we probably see a lot of people go to alternative chains, right? Just because of the narrative of like institutions and BlackRock and the way everyone feels about everything. If all of a sudden ETH is the guy in a suit at a hedge fund, I don't think that goes well for ETH. But I've been a little bearish on ETH, maybe undeservedly lately. So
yeah,
I don't
what's
know.
The deal? Why are you such an ETH bear?
You want to know the real answer?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm so sick of paying gas fees, and I'm so sick of you try to explain a blockchain or anything to random guy on street or dude in taxi, right? And they kind of get it. And then you throw L2s into the mix, and it's just done.
Yeah.
Someone has to win there first before I'm going to be bullish on it. And if you start talking to a guy in a taxi and you're like, well, you could go this way, you could go this way. There's 12 different ways to try and scale this. Someone has to win.
You know what's funny? I was reading this book, Read Right Own.
Mm-hmm. How is that? I haven't gotten to read it yet.
It's really good. I'm like a third of the way through. Chris Dixon really explains things well, giving context of history, using good metaphors and examples. He does a good job. I'm so trying to finish that before Saturday. But anyways, I go to like all these different coffee shops, just like, and like I didn't want, none of them were open except like this one, which is really good, like egg sandwiches. But like every time I like eat outside there's always like homeless schizo people that come up to me, and I'm a nice guy, so I like talk to them for like 20-30 minutes. But and I was like, I don't want to talk to them today. But I guess I'll like sit outside. And so I went to get my coffee and food, and I'm sitting there, and of course, a schizo homeless person like comes up and starts talking. He was like, "Hey, like, what are you reading? Like, And then like he was like, "What's a blockchain?" And so I had to, so I was like explaining to this homeless person what a blockchain was and like how it all works. And like I use the Excel, the Google Sheet Excel example of like a decentralized Excel sheet always updating. He was like, and then he kind of just got more and more schizo. I'm like, I forgot my phone at home. I'm gonna go. And so then I left. But I was like, I hope you can use my knowledge. Bye.
Now imagine trying to explain bridging to an L2 to that guy or girl.
I mean, try to explain that to anyone.
Right. Then, like, I just think that whole meta, it's not time yet, right? Like it's still stuck in this kind of technical, all of the points against like why you would use X over Z, or like why Arbitrum versus Optimism versus Base versus like.
And they're also going to exist. And now you have this mess of different stable coins. It's not like the native stable coin or native token. Right. It's like you have like wrapped Tether or wrapped USDC.
It's confusing for me. You know?
Yeah. It's like, what is the real USDC? What is the native one? And
what is USDC anymore? You know? Like...
Yeah. And this is what, Frax is like thought of and is trying to solve with Fraxel. And I think in the future, you're just going to have like thousands of L2s. And then like you're gonna have your L2, like you're gonna have your like main chain where like all your tokens are like receipts are like that's the final chain of settlement, and then it's gonna be like natively issued on all different chains. It's like, oh, you're gonna have like it on ARB, it on OP, it on Solana, like doesn't matter. But all like the receipts, it happens on like your main home chain, and that's how like basically Fraxel works. That's
like what I like about Fraxel and Frax is that it all makes sense. It all comes back together. It's very ambitious, but it's very contained.
Yes.
Cohesion.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I just wanted to get on this point before we go too far off. It's like, Birb, you said something about crowning the winner in the L2 meta. Like the meta gotta change. Like, so as, an Empress, what would it take for an L2 to be crowned? Like what does that look like?
Yeah.
Oh. Wow. How do I answer that without showing some of my bias here? I think it's going to be a UX thing in the end. I think whoever has the easiest way that you get from point A to point B with scaring the least amount of people, like I don't want to sit there and wait 30 minutes on a bridge.
Scaring the least amount of hoes.
Scaring the least amount of hoes, the one with the best vibes, if you will. I think that's how you win, right? Like there's so many that are really scary when you go to bridge and you're like, I hope I did this right. And you know, it's, why am I doing this? And you're paying $1 gazillion to get on there. And then you're like, it's going to take forever. Whoever can figure out just how to get past that, that's who's going to win, right? Like it's the friction thing I talked about earlier. When you start introducing points of friction, that's where people start falling out. So the less friction you give them, the more
points you get them.
And the more points you give them, the less space there is for them to fall out. And so you get more people.
So actually, who do you think points makes your tolerance for friction goes up?
Yes.
So again, you know.
So maybe not points. Again, goes back to maybe we don't incentivize people by paying them to use our chains.
What's interesting about UX and stuff, Bitcoin has terrible UX, but everyone's going over to like do ordinals and like different ordinals.
It's a feature, not a bug.
It's a feature, yeah, exactly. Like people, if like there's money being made, it does not matter like how shitty the UX is or you know how expensive it is. People will spend their money and they will go over there.
I agree,
yeah.
But the most people and the most winning is done by the easiest ways of doing things, I think.
Mm-hmm. And I'm all about doing things.
Exactly.
And Tron is a huge winner. You know,
Tron is a huge winner.
Dave and I talk about this all the time, but it truly is Tether chain. Like the amount of like Tether volume that chain pumps out is like, it is Satoshi's eCash vision. You know, like this is what it really is. But then obviously we fade it because of the narratives we put around it. It's funny and stuff.
That Tether used to be primarily on Bitcoin and Omni chain, right? Or Omni, and then it was on ETH. But then USDC became like this de facto stablecoin of DeFi at the beginning. And then Tether found its way on being like, hey, we'll just be the stablecoin for Tether to go in between exchanges. And then it kind of like a second order effect of that is just regular people, normal people all over the world. It doesn't matter where you are, you know, they can like redeem their Tether and like basically these exchanges are their banks. And, you know, it is like in a way Satoshi's vision.
There's also huge, and I mean huge Asian markets that are all Tether, and they're not English-speaking markets, right? So once you start getting in these other East Asian kind of markets, you realize that it's a very different game, and Tether is really the Tron is Tether and Tron on that are just number far away. Yeah, you know, there's a whole world out there, and like I don't know if you guys know this, there's a Turkish stablecoin on Tron, like for the actual lira, which is probably somewhat of a I learned about this from a taxi driver in Istanbul. They're all using it and it's getting like a ton of adoption over there because it's just easy to use and the lira itself is not in a great place.
So who do you let's hear some bias, let's hear some winners. Who do you think is going to be the winners of the L2 and like and chain wars coming up? Not wars, but like who do you think will be like the most popular L2s?
I think it depends on what gets built on them and what they're used for. So for things like DeFi, here's one for you that I think everyone's going to hate my answer to. Solana's kind of already figured out every single problem that the Ethereum's trying to figure with DeFi, right? Like that is a chain that is made for financial applications. It is made like Etta totally talks about it being like the NASDAQ on chain. Like it makes sense that the chain that is built for that is going to be what gets used for that, especially when there's very, very little slippage and fees in comparison. But if you're doing something like in a consumer space, you might want something more like an Ethereum or an L2 that does something different. So, or if you look at things like Friendtech that really got base going, you know, it depends, I think, on what gets built on the chain, what the vibes of the chain are, and why the chain wants to exist.
It all comes back down to vibes.
It's all vibes in the end. You can hide it behind any sort of technical argument you want. If you don't have the vibes, you don't win. There's all sorts of great technology that people don't talk about because the vibes are bad.
Because the vibes are off. It's interesting with Solana. Or go ahead, Kiet.
No, I was going to ask, like, how does one improve vibe? How does
one become
vibe feasible?
You pay attention to normies, and I think above all else, you have fun. Like, you can't take yourself too seriously in this, and you can't sit there and be like, well, we're the technical, blah, 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 and we're going to do... No one cares at the end of the day. They want to know if they can do something fun, if it's easy to do it, and if their friends are doing it. And, you know, those are the ways to improve the vibes, is get your friends doing it and have fun doing it. Doesn't really matter what it is.
Just have fun.
Just have fun. Like, one of the coolest things I've actually seen lately as kind of a crypto adopter in general is something my friend Winnie is working on. Dave, I don't
Winnie.
know.
No, Winnie's a friend.
Yeah.
Shout out Winnie.
Shout out Winnie. I'm going to show Winnie here for a second. What Winnie is doing is something totally different than I think most people in the space are focused on. And she kind of went fashion and friends first, as opposed to technological like baseline. So Winnie has this thing called Chipped. And what it is a NFC nail. So like a press on nails. And they have an NFC chip in them. And that NFC chip has a whole bunch of stuff in it that I am not technical enough to know how to explain and will not do justice. But it gives you kind of proof of IRL, proof of attestation that you've met. You know, it can link to your socials. You get like POAPs for meeting each other. That is adoption right there, because everyone all of a sudden, you know, you hold your phone up, boop, oh, we met at a party, you know, and everyone has fun with it. Every single person I've ever shown in real life is like, this is so cool. And I'm like, do you care that it's built on crypto? And they're like, no, but now that's cool. And that's how you get women into crypto. You care about the fashion. You care about your friends having fun. Bam. You've just, you know, she walked Fashion Week. Her nails were on New York Fashion Week. And that is some of the greatest fun exposure I think anyone's done for crypto in a long time.
Literally a chip on the thumb.
Yeah. I would get up. I have one, but I'm.
Can you ship me at ETH Denver?
I will try. Do you want a nail?
Could I get? Do I want a nail? Yeah, I'll take it now.
I have some.
I'll have it on my pinky.
You'll have one
like...
scary. Well, they're kind of the prototypes she has are kind of big, but.
Oh, okay.
She did just release a new color, so I'm very excited about that. Yeah.
New drop. So we're getting to the end of the interview, and I have to ask, is it vegan?
No.
Yes or no, and why? Why not?
No. Because it's an animal product.
Why would people argue that it is vegan if it's an animal product?
Consent. I think this is a dumb argument. I'll start by saying that. They say that it's not exploitive because a human can consent. I don't think that's fair. I think that's a very silly carve-out.
But it comes from an animal.
A human isn't. Yeah, I agree.
Isn't that, yeah.
But apparently there's ethical veganism that's more concerned about if the animal consented.
This is ethical. Oh, so there's
I don't really get it, to be honest with you, because nothing other than a human can consent anyway.
Well, you're the Empress of West Ham, so whatever you say, go.
Should we explain what we're talking about?
Yes, no? I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should explain it after the show.
Okay, after the show.
Okay.
After the show. If you don't know, if you know, you know. If you don't know,
let's just leave some mystery.
I'm sorry in advance.
And so, okay, before we end every interview, we like to do a lightning round, get to know you off chain. So go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm going to kick it off here is, what was your virgin crypto experience, but sex doesn't count? When did you first touch the blockchain?
2012, onion sites to use the Silk Road.
Very honest. Second question. What is your favorite off-chain touch grass activity, hobbies and interests?
I don't know if you can tell from my small,
plants.
It's plants.
You're wearing green.
And I'm wearing green. Green's my favorite color, and my engagement ring is green. You'll actually like that story. Ask me about that in a second. I'm marrying a reply guy.
Oh.
Yeah. But my favorite touching grass activity is taking care of all of my plants.
And it's taking care of grass.
It's taking care of grass. It's making grass grow.
What would be some advice to your younger self?
Hang in there.
Hang in there.
It gets better.
It gets better.
It gets a lot better.
A lot better.
A lot better.
A lot better.
So much better.
Keep doing that.
I can't stop now that you're like...
I'm just your soundboard.
Hang in there.
Okay, go ahead.
Very nice. All right. If you weren't in finance or tech, what would your professional career path be?
I'm not sure. Probably something with fashion. I don't know if you've ever seen any of the really insane fits I've worn to conferences.
Yo, they're nuts.
I got some new ones.
I'm impressed. I'm genuinely impressed. I'm like, whoa.
I got a new one, Dave. It's got shrimp all over it.
Shrimp. Yeah, I got a new cherry blossom out of nowhere.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
We got to take some hard fit pics, honestly.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
This is I was really brainstorming on what to wear for this, and I got so nervous. I was just like, green shirt. But I could have had a lot more fun, and I'm sorry that I didn't.
No, it goes with the plants. You're good.
Yeah, exactly.
And final question from me: who do you want to see on the show next? Who would you recommend as a guest?
Lawrence.
Yes, I would love to have Lawrence on.
Lawrence, or honestly, I think Winnie would be a really fun one too.
The Winnie. I would love to have both of them on.
Winnie or Lawrence or Crypto Finally. Have you had Rachel on? She is one of the funniest people I have ever met.
You know what's funny? She actually interviewed me way back in the day when I was at my first job.
Wow.
Yeah, I was basically going on like a podcast circuit for Everpedia, and I just like cold emailed everyone randomly, and she was one of the people that had me on. So
maybe you should cold email her again and
be like, hey, do you remember me?
Hey, let's do this again.
This was like right when DeFi Dave started in 2020.
Wow, that's vintage.
Yeah, vintage, old school days.
It's really hard to believe that 2020 was 4 years ago.
Don't remind me. It's scary.
I know.
I'm a real boomer now.
I'm so old.
About to turn 32. Ugh. Not 32, but 30 as well. But
I gotta be honest though, I'm actually really happy I turned 30. My 20s were a mess. You kind of know who you are a little more at 30, and I think you have a little more like, you don't have to struggle anymore. You know what I mean? Like the struggle is done. You get to just have fun now and learn who you are and enjoy stuff. And you're way less self-conscious. So 30 is good. Don't let these Zoomers tell you differently.
Yeah. You heard it from Birb. 30 is good.
30, flirty, and thriving, damn it.
Hell yeah. Birb, thank you so much for going on.
Thanks for having me.
Where can people find you? Can find OtterSec? Like any final plugs?
You can find me on Twitter at Bone Condor. Our OtterSec is OSEC_IO. That's OSEC. And you can find me on the internet. I'm pretty online.
You heard it here. The Empress of West Ham. Thanks so much, Birb.
Thank you. This was fun.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the post game. I'm your host, DeFi Dave, here with Capital K. We are finishing up the episode with the Empress of West Ham, Birb, Chairman Birb Bernanke. I love saying that. The Empress of West Ham.
Royal Highness.
The Royal Highness. Yes, indeed. We just finished it, and man, that episode was a journey from, her humble beginnings of regulatory arbitrage to, being in college, not sure what she wanted to do, to being, with market makers and this and that, and then just like ending up in crypto. I feel like a lot of us just like end up here, and it's, great to have gotten her story and her perspective on things. And then also just like she has a lot of insights, and you can tell that she's thought deeply about a variety of subjects, whether it's auditing or the Bitcoin ETF or, what's going on with L2s and like what makes a product tick. So I really appreciate the thoughtfulness of the Royal Highness of Birb. Kit, what are your thoughts on this one?
I think she has like an air of, confidence and also like a comfortness where you just feel very at ease talking to her, and it's very, very, very easy to connect with her and vibe with her. I think she did that really well. At least this was my first time meeting her, and I had a great conversation.
She's the goat at BD. It's because she's like, she just like disarms you, makes you feel comfortable. And like, that's what you got to do at BD. It's just like, make people feel comfortable, be able to like come across clearly, but not like overpowering in an overpowering way. And like, I know she kills it. And I remember like talking to her before she joined OtterSec. She was like, she wasn't sure and like this and that. There was like a lot of questions, but now she like loves it, and I'm sure she's killing it there. So, and I had no doubt in my mind like she would kill it no matter where she went. But OtterSec is very lucky to have her.
Yeah. Good thing for Robert.
Yeah, shout out Robert. Another score. Another score. But yeah, this was a fun episode. We're going to keep doing these. So if you want to keep up with us, make sure you go and subscribe. Hit that bell button. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Hit that like button too. If you're on X, Twitter, make sure you repost this. Give us a reply. Give us a like there. You know what to do. Follow us on all of our socials at Flywheel DeFi on Twitter, TikTok, and Telegram. Farcaster, follow us at Flywheel, and you can and go down to our website down below, flywheeldefi.com. Subscribe. You don't want to miss our latest updates in alpha, everything Frax and DeFi. And you can follow yours truly at DeFi Dave 22 on Twitter.
And follow. Sorry.
And also on Farcaster, I'm DeFi Dave.
And you can follow me at 0xcapital_K on everything.
And I've read so much easier. And we'll see you next week. Peace.
Bye.
Everything said on this episode is not financial or tax advice. This channel is strictly for educational purposes and is not an investment advice or solicitation to buy or sell any assets or to make any financial decisions. This video is not tax advice whatsoever. Please talk to your accountant and do your own research.